This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit Shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your #1 priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. Obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors, but they take time and energy, pulling you away from building and shipping. That's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups get audit ready and build a strong security foundation, quickly and painlessly. Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. The platform connects you with trusted experts to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. So whether you're closing your first deal or gearing up for growth, Vanta makes compliance easy. Join over 8,000 companies, including Y Combinator and Techstar startups who trust Vanta. For a limited time, get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/simplify. That's VANTA.com/simplify for $1,000 off.
O'Reilly. You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Jacob Minter. Good job with the shot, and the Slough Jets have taken the lead on the power play. With 20 minutes with the shot force goal. No need to save from Lorde, and Campbell finds himself in, and it's 3-1 to the Chelsea Chieftains.
Hello and welcome to Zero Pucks Given, the UK Ice Hockey Podcast. We're in partnership with the Hockey Art Co., hockey clothing for hockey people, worn by the best and hated by the rest. Listeners to Zero Pucks Given get a 10% discount off of everything site-wide at hockeyartclothing.co.uk. Just use the code ZP10. We're also in partnership with Manscaped, the globally recognised male grooming brand with top-of-the-range products such as the Beard Hugger, the Lawn Mower, the Weed Whacker and the Dome Shaver Pro. Really top quality products. You can use them in the shower because they're waterproof. They have ceramic blades, so no nicks and no cuts, regardless of where you use them. And there's lots of other amazing products available at manscaped.com. You get 20% of everything, plus free shipping when you use the code 0pucks20. We are also part of the Sports Social Podcast Network, the largest sport podcast network in Europe, boasting over 500 podcasts from more than 20 different sports. And we're thrilled that the ZPG network of Zero Pucks Given and ZPG Ice Maidens is a part of it. Well, hello, welcome along. I'm Ben. This is Zero Pucks Given. This is episode 152. We are back with the roundup episode from everything that's gone on the weekend just gone. Thank you so much for everyone for tuning in to last week's roundup episode. And then, of course, we had the special bonus episode with Phil Eichinger. I thought it was a lovely little story, actually, because we always like to keep, obviously, hockey is the main focus of the podcast. And it was certainly hockey-related as well. But Phil reached out to me with his project, and I thought, you know what, that sounds really interesting. I've kept up to date with it. I think it's a cracking little bit of work that he's put together. And obviously a guy that loves his hockey as well as the incredibly successful acting career that he had as well. So if you haven't caught up with that yet, it's available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well as on YouTube. When you can catch up with me, catching up with Phil Eichinger. Right, well, news-wise in the Britain division, a little bit slow this weekend. No disciplinary news. All of the disciplinary news actually came for the Whitley Warriors, who must have had a bit of a rough weekend last weekend. So there's no fresh bans coming into the Britain division. And, of course, no roster additions. Now we've passed that deadline where players would be available for the playoffs, so it's not often that they get added after that date. Everyone is back in action this weekend, though. Of course, last week Slough had a weekend off and Invicta had a weekend off. And then going into the following weekend, we've got the Cup final. So pretty much everyone's got a week off apart from Chelmsford and Solent. I know Streatham and Cardiff and Oxford are completing some league games as well. But we'll get to those fixtures a little bit later on. So what we're going to do what we did last week. We're going to run through all of the games that happened this weekend. We're going to run through them as a whole rather than with like a play-by-play commentary. And then we've got coaches' thoughts from, of course, 9 out of the 10 available that we get in the league. So we'll hear all of them as we go through. And as we like to, where we can, we go in a chronological order. And we start with the early face-off as the Cardiff Fire headed to hell to face the Solent Devils at Planet Ice in Gosport. Well, it was a fast start, as it usually is at Solent. The home side actually having the better of the opening exchanges, having a power play as well after Ellis Shepherd sat on 9:44 for cross-checking, but weren't able to break through. They did break through on the 14:40, though, when Tom Banner assisted the returning Cameron Buckle. We said last week, Cam's been out for quite a while with a little virus and was actually hospitalised by it, but he was back this week and back amongst the goals, giving Solent the lead on 14:40. Despite having another power play chance after Big Joe sat for hooking on 50:53, 1-0 remained the score there going into the second period. And the second period is where the Devils kind of ran away with it a little bit, and I know that Ellis won't be overly happy with how his team defended for this sort of short period of time in that second period. It started off with Cameron Buckle assisting Harry Harcup. From what I understand from the description, Buckle holding it well in the offensive zone as Harcup comes flying down the wing to put it in on 22:10, making it 2-0. And then really quickly after that, sort of just over 2 minutes after, Oliver Cackett made it 3-0 as Pitts and Murray laid on the assist. That was the first of quite a few assists for Pitts that night. Cardiff did pull one back, though, when Bailey Hine-Pitcher assisted Aaron Reagan on 26:05. Probably thinking they might be able to stage a little bit of a comeback there. But Solent managed to hold it together, really, and Harry Cloutman put them ahead on the power play after Jasper Quinn had taken 2 successive penalties, one for boarding on 29:26 and then one for roughing on 32:33, where he was joined by Tom Banner. But from that first penalty, Kane Russell and Alex Murray assisted Harry Cloutman to make it 4-1 Solent with a power play goal. Murray then turned the scorer when Pitts and Russell were the providers to make it 5-1 to Solent on 35:05, before they closed out the second period with a 6th goal as Cameron Buckle and Mark Pitts assisted Tom Banner to make it 6-1 on 37:56. Penalties-wise, it was kind of quite even going into the third, but then in the third it seemed like, particularly in the last 10 minutes rather, that Cardiff actually lost their discipline a little bit. The first one coming for them, and young Aston Lacey, who actually got himself on the score sheet. So on 52:29, Charlie Wedge made it 7-1 when Hutchinson and Penny assisted him to put Solent even further ahead. And then on 42:49, Harkup assisted Aston Lacey for his first NIHL 1 goal, his first senior goal for the Solent Devils. And then he got into a little bit of roughing with Cardiff player coach Ellis Shepherd and took a seat for 2 minutes. Shepherd was very quickly followed by Aaron Moody for hooking on 53:48, which was killed off until Ian Gunson was put in for slashing on 56:56. And then the Devils took a little bit more of an advantage as Buckle and Pitts assisted Alex Murray on the power play to make it 9-1. And with 2 minutes and 2 seconds to go, they hit that double-figure mark with Wild and Penny assisting Charlie Wedge for his second, giving the Devils a 10-1 win over the Fire. A massive piece of revenge, actually, after that 2-1 win that Cardiff took at the Vindico last week, which we know from Alex's coach's thoughts from last week, the side were ravaged by the virus that was going through them. It was a result they weren't really happy with. Obviously, Fire were ecstatic with it, but this was a bit of revenge for them. And going into that cup final this weekend, just having that one game this weekend, gives them a little bit of time to get some bodies back in before they go head-to-head with Chelmsford. So for Cardiff then, on the Sunday, they will return home to face the Milton Keynes Thunder at the Vindico Arena in Cardiff Bay, whereas the Solent Devils, as I say, just that one-game weekend, heading into the cup final against Chelmsford next week. Let's get the thoughts of Alex Murray.
Yeah, so this weekend, a single fixture against the Cardiff Fire. That was at home on Saturday. I think I've made it pretty clear over the last couple of weeks that we've been fighting against some things, internally, externally, injury, illness, performance. that illness bug is still around, and we still have guys, fresher guys that are off of it now. But it was really good to see the likes of Cam returning. Couldn't forget Mark Pitts returning as well. And Kane was back in the lineup. So whilst we were still missing a few, pretty confident with the lineup that we had going out, and even had to play wing myself just to get some balance in the lineup, which was a bit crazy. And overall, we did what we set out to do. I think it was a real buy-in. We had the likes of Jock and Duffy on the bench, making sure that guys were focused on our objectives today, on Saturday, and they really, put in the hard work. The boys was, and whilst we were only 1-0 up after the first, I was pretty confident that, we would kick on from that game and continue. And I reflect and just think it was a similar game to the place, the game at their place. We just didn't kick on. And when you don't score in big, times of dominance, you give the other team life, and it was life that we gave them at their place. The giveaway to lead to the breakaway gives them life, and when you're not clinical, you're easy. You can easily get punished. So it was good that some of the bigger guys, more clinical senior guys were there and putting the pucks in there, and it just allowed everyone to relax. Then the likes of Wedge get on the board, Aston Lacey getting his first goal. Ollie Cackett with another goal again in a game, which was really good. And it just brings that sense of, it's almost, you've got that security blanket when you've got the likes of Pitsy and Cam out there, it's just, it brings confidence. And so, there wasn't a better, performance that we could have had going into the cup final this week. And we'll be doing all we can now following that, positive result to get guys back fit. And once they are, we'll be setting up ready for practice Thursday with an intention on working on the weekend to ensure that we've got a game plan that keeps us competitive. And we're really excited. It's a great opportunity for us. It's another chance at silverware. We're normally there or thereabouts with these sort of things, but over the last sort of, since the COVID Cup, we haven't really, managed to get through the finish line. So we'll be doing all we can to bring that cup home to our fans, and it will start on Saturday with a home tie, and then, Sunday's going to be Sunday, and we'll be going there with full of confidence and hoping to, bring home a cup.
Saturday also saw two of the top three going head-to-head as Slough Jets, who have now put the league title in their own hands. If they carry on winning, the title is all theirs. But they were hosting the Chelmsford Chieftains on Saturday in third, who will have to have some slip-ups from above them, but it's still not mathematically over for them. However, the Jets played the perfect game on Saturday night. Of course, the Chieftains in the same boat as the Devils, just having the one-game weekend before looking into the cup final. But Slough took the lead on the 12th minute when Ollie Hemmings-Mayer assisted Dylan Holliker on a short-handed goal after they received a too-many-men bench penalty on 12:19. Literally 4 seconds from that restart, they took the lead on a breakaway. Dylan Holliker slotting that away for 1-0. Just as Chelmsford would have thought, let's get into the break at 1-0 down and then come out and have a go in the second. 19 seconds from the buzzer, Goodchild and Miles assisted Seb Moore to make it 2-0 to Slough with his 16th goal of the season. Into the second period then, and the Slough Jets continued the onslaught as just after the halfway mark, Ollie Hemmings-Mayer assisted Ben Ely Newman to make it 3-0 on 30:45, before the Chieftains did pull one back when Alan Lack assisted Alexander Maltzer to make it 3-1 on 31:09. But it really wasn't to be, as they did try to push. Just after that goal, Alan Lack found himself in the box for boarding, and in that power play, Slough took even further of a lead. They restored their 3-goal advantage when Seb Moore and Ollie Hemmings-Mayer assisted Juha Lindgren. His 7th goal since his return has been quite a signing. Literally seconds after that, 35 seconds to be exact, it was 5 when Soper and Redmond assisted Kyle Bradburn to make it 5-1 to Slough on 33:45. Into the third period, there was a little bit of bad blood, I suppose, actually carrying over from a fight at the end of the second period, which I'm sure that quite a lot of you would have seen online. I think it was always coming. This is the last regulation league game for these two this season, and in the very, very first one, in the opening seconds, there was a clash between Dix and Miles, which we all said that was going to result in a fight, which it did, and that one went pretty well on social media as well. This one, the 2.0, the rematch, was even better. Quite a heavy facial injury sustained to Brandon Miles, but we know how tough he is. He got stitched up and he got back on the ice. So, yeah, that sort of let a little bit of the bad blood that was going. Alan Lack took a double penalty at the end of that period for holding and for abuse of official. Into the third, and Carl Bradburn took an early penalty for Slough, but they were able to get it off. But with both teams even-handed, Grant Bartlett pulled one back for the Chieftains with Pickering and Lack on the assists on 46.09 to make it 5-2. But the comeback wasn't on as much as they would have liked. Straight from the restart, Ben Ely Newman assisted Ollie Hemmings-Mayer to make it 6-2 Slough on 46.22, just 13 seconds after that Chieftains goal. After that, Callum Wells sat for a delay of game penalty on 46.46, but no further goals. Slough quite deadly then on the power play, plus with that short-handed goal at the beginning. They are the best team that I've seen so far this year, and I think it would be fully justified for them to go on and win the league. But it's not over yet. There's a lot of hockey still to play. It is in their hands, but you can kind of see maybe they could slip up. Streatham could still slip up. But with Chelmsford having the cup final coming, I'd imagine they probably had one eye on that, which is kind of alluded to really by head coach Lewis Clifford.
Yeah, just the one game for us this weekend down in Slough. Yeah, it was a tough night actually, to be honest. It had very much a feel of a team who know where we're going to finish now, realistically, barring any sort of huge miracles or slip-ups over above or below us. And also a team that knows what we've got coming. And, I'll never go in and tell my team we've got big games next weekend, like no injuries, no suspensions, just get out of there. But it's impossible for there not to be kind of an undercurrent of that when, recent results over the last couple of weeks have put us in a place where we kind of know that we're probably going to finish third now. And, and it had a bit of a feel of that about it, if I'm completely honest. We're kind of second best to everything, and that's just how it is. It's not okay. I'm not happy with it. I'm not saying I'm fine with going to Slough and losing. I'm never fine with just going to a game and losing. But we did, and we can't go back, and you can't go back and change things. You can only look at the present and where you're going, and where we're going is somewhere really exciting this weekend. Massive weekend on the horizon for us now. We've got a big week of training. We've got Tuesday, Thursday this week, and then obviously we go to Solent on Saturday to play the first half of a cup final. It's impossible to not be excited when you're playing for silverware. The first half of the game being in Solent presents its own challenges. It's a tough place to go, and always will be, and always has been. So. We went there a couple of weeks ago and we won, so that's a good thing. I think we found a way of playing in there that works, and we're going to have to go and do that again on Saturday. We're not looking at Sunday at the moment. There's absolutely no chance you can look at the Sunday game before you've dealt with the Saturday game. So we'll be all geared round this week to getting ready to play in Solent on Saturday night, and then obviously the homecoming on Sunday for the second leg. Chances to play for trophies don't come round all that often. You get some very, very good players at this level, of all levels of hockey, who have never won a trophy, and they don't get given out for free. They're hard to win, and this weekend will be no different to that. So we've just got to park up what we've done the last few weeks in the league and move forward, and go out there and try and win 2 games. And it should be really, really exciting. So whilst it's exciting for the players to play in a cup final, it's exciting for us coaches and staff to be involved in a cup final. It's also really exciting for the fans. I believe we've got quite a good contingent going down to the south coast on Saturday, and then obviously our rink will be absolutely bursting at the seams on Sunday. So I'm really excited about that, looking forward to that. I hope everybody else is too. Hats off to Slough, Smiths and the boys over there. We've played them all times now. We don't play them again until possibly the playoffs. It's going to be very interesting now to see who kicks on now. I think they play one more game between them, Streatham and Slough, so that will probably end up deciding where the trophy heads, I imagine, barring any massive slip-ups by either of them. And what a title race that's going to be. So fair play to them. Smiths and his boys, Paints and his boys, best of luck for the rest of the way. We'll see you again down the road in the playoffs. And thanks to everyone that came over and supported us on Saturday. It was a tough night for everybody, but you know, you're always there, you're always loud, so we appreciate that. And we'll see you, ready to go, ready for action this weekend.
Also on the Saturday, up at the Thunderdome, a little sort of relatively local derby, I suppose about an hour between the two of them. The Swindon Wildcats headed up to the Thunderdome. Unfortunately, there's not a great deal of detail around for this game. Massive shout to Joe Scutts, who gets the box scores up on his NOHL stats website really quickly, but he has no details for this game. So we go with what we could get from the game night. We do know that the Thunder actually took the lead in the first period and held that 1-goal lead out until the end of it. The second period, though, got a little bit more competitive. Wildcats got on the board with Costal Senior, Charlie Turner and Sammy Ray. Thunder did get a few. I think what they were doing was trying to defend, but then when they were scored on, they were actually biting back and scoring again. But the second period ended 4-3 to Swindon. And as the game got more competitive in the third, I think Thunder were trying to push. When it got towards the end, they ended up pulling the goalie, trying to force overtime, and got caught with an empty netter from Luca Kirk-Brown. So I think a really solid performance for the Thunder. I would imagine they probably would have liked at least a point out of the game, considering how well they played. As I say, Costal Senior, Turner, Sammy Ray, Costal Junior and Luca Kirk-Brown on the goals for the Swindon Wildcats. They will be hosting the Slough Jets on the Sunday night. Sunday night at the Link Centre proves difficult for an awful lot of teams. We'll see if they can make it difficult for the league leaders. For the Milton Keynes Thunder, they will head across the M4, across the Severn Bridge, and into the Cardiff Bay to face the Fire at the Vindico Arena on Sunday. Sunday night in Gillingham, then, the first game of Sunday saw the Oxford City Stars make the trip down to face the Invicta Dynamos, who had a lot of players back from injury, as well as a debutant. They're signing Louis White, who local lad, but's been playing in Canada for a few years. He is now back, and he's straight in amongst the goals. Just 2 minutes 15 in on his first shift. Made it 1-0 Invicta, assisted by Sam Oliver and Ruskin Springer-Hughes. Invicta doubled their advantage before the 10-minute mark when Saw and Pyrewell assisted Harrison Lillis to make it 2-0 on 9:08. After Louis White received an interference penalty on 9:31, Oxford got themselves back into the game with an unassisted goal from Jake Williams. But that wasn't the start of the comeback, as Saw and Connolly assisted Pyrewell to make it 3-1 to Invicta on 14:30. A late Regan O'Neill roughing penalty in the first on 18:18 saw the Stars back on the power play and back amongst the goals as Cook and Wilson assisted Sam Robinson to make it 3-2. I would imagine that the words from Mark Saunders in that break were, this is close enough that we could actually go and cause them a problem, but they probably had the worst second period they could actually imagine. As they come out, 24-12, so 4 minutes 12 into the period, Pyrewell and Saw assisted Aaron Connolly. Pretty much less than a minute later, it was 5-2 when Connolly and Pyrewell assisted Tom Saw. Oxford did manage to pull another goal back, actually, when Sam Robinson and Jake Williams assisted Ellis Austin for his first goal of the season. But straight from that restart, Lewis Colvin and Ollie Bronyman assisted Aaron Connolly for his second. And then, again, straight from that restart, Tom Saw assisted Mad Stoon. So there was a little bit of a crazy period there. That first Connolly goal actually on the power play after Sam Robinson sat for hooking. But then Connolly just sort of went on a bit of a rampage and added his hat-trick before the end of the second to make it 8-3 on 34-15. And then right at the start of the third, he added his fourth to make it 9-3 with White and Saw on the assists there. Oxford completed a pretty good night on the power play for themselves after Sam Oliver took a 2+2 for charging and roughing. They got on that power play and they pulled another goal back when Williams and Cook assisted Joe Covey on 51-07. But the Invicta Dynamos hit that double figures with literally 40 seconds after that Oxford goal. Matt Stoon and Bronyman assisting Lewis Colvin with his 10th of the season, making it 10-4 to the Invicta Dynamos. They've had a little bit of an up and down month in February because they haven't had a great deal of game time. They've been using it to try and get players back from injury, but they have had some suspensions as well. It's been a little bit all over the place for them. Of course, they go into another weekend off with the Cup final weekend this weekend coming. But I would imagine just with that that performance to put that many goals away. I would imagine that Cole Lennon's quite happy with it.
After a week off, we were back on the ice Sunday against Oxford at home, and it was good to get back out there and good to see a good attendance on Sunday night at the rink as well. And of course, the game itself was one that was, I guess, pretty dominant in terms of the scoreline, but there were certainly moments in the game where Oxford gave us a run for our money, especially in the first period. We didn't really capitalise on our dominance in terms of possession, and we gave up a couple of silly power play goals that were sort of really avoidable, if I'm honest. But nonetheless, they plugged away and gave us a tough first. In the second, we kind of pulled away and scored, a few unanswered goals and were pretty clinical and ruthless in that, and ended up 10-4 victors. I guess the obvious annoyance for me as a coach was the conceding of goals, and like I said, I think 3 of those at least came from our own individual errors or misfortunes of ricochets into net or whatever. But that's hockey, so you just have to roll with that. Of course, there were some standout performances on the night. Aaron picking up 4 goals were pretty good, and then on top of that, we had the debut of Louis White, who scored in his first shift and made a really nice play for one of Aaron's goals later in the game too, and capped that all off with a man of the match performance from his part. So a good night's work in the end. Another win, which we're happy about, and we now have another week off, like a number of the teams in our division next week because of the cup final. And then we're back with 3 back-to-back weekends of double headers. So we're quite excited to get back into that rhythm of playing regularly. This month has been extremely disruptive. We only have three games the whole month, so it's been a bit of a pain in the backside, but such is life. And we'll get another bit of recuperation and preparation in ahead of the games coming up, and we go from there.
And as I said, obviously having that bit of a blow up in the second period where they conceded quite a few goals, I can't imagine that Mark Saunders will be overly happy with that, but I can imagine they'd be quite happy with the special teams when they scored 3 on the power play.
Yeah, one game weekend for the City Stars this weekend was we went to the Gillingham Ice Bowl to take on the Invicta Dynamos. We were pretty depleted from illness, injury, players away. Also with the Rising Stars playing, we weren't able to call on those guys, so we went with 14 skaters, which is the first time we've done that in a few weeks. I was impressed with the energy we put in the first. I mean, that game could have got away from us in the first period, and I liked our pushback. We ended up 3-2 down at the end of the first, 2 power play goals there, which was good to see. And then, unfortunately, we came out in the second period, bit us again. And when you're playing against a player like Aaron Connolly, and he can turn it on whenever he wants, he did just that, and everything that they did went through him. I thought he was, it just sounded like 63 was coming out of the DJ and the announcer for the whole second period. He was instrumental in their 5-goal swing. In the second period, we managed to put 1 on the board. Special mention to Ellis Austin, who got his first senior goal on Sunday night. So that was nice to see as well. We tried to push back in the third. We got another power play goal, and I think the damage was definitely done in the second period there against us, and we managed to put 1 back. But 10-4 was probably a little bit harsh. But with the bodies that we had and the experience, the boys were getting last night. Also, special mention to Hugh Eden Parish, who got his first senior start for the Oxford City Stars last night. So we went with a lot of youth last night, and the Dynamo showed that they're experienced outfit and what can happen if you switch off. And unfortunately, the second period was our downfall. I thought we skated with them all night. We just, we lost our D zone a little bit in the second. And, a team like that can punish you. So lessons to be learned. We dressed it down at the end of the game, albeit briefly, because it was absolutely freezing here last night. So I think everybody wanted to get out of there and thaw out. But, dressed down last night as we prepped for what is undoubtedly a massive game this weekend for us as we take on Cardiff away on Sunday night in the Cardiff rink. Big week of practice for us coming up. Get some bodies back, get a full lineup ready to go, and we make the trip to Cardiff on Sunday night. So big prep for us this week.
Up to the Link Centre then, as the Slough Jets were the visitors. As we said earlier, Swindon try and make it very, very difficult when they're playing at home. No Ken Fulshie behind the bench for them tonight, so Shannon Taylor taking the reins. And right at the end of the first period, there was a bit of a melee after Belly Newman and received a penalty for interference on 1901. On that power play, Swindon took the lead when Nethercell and Jay Warren assisted Jan Kostel Sr. to make it 1-0 on 1925, and in the aftermath of the goal, both Jay Warren and Brandon Miles were boxed for misconduct. So waiting to see what comes of that, if anything. Into the second, and the Wildcats doubled their advantage when Charlie Turner assisted Ethan Taylor on 22:04. And I would imagine what they probably had to do then was hold things tight for at least 5 or 10 minutes, but it didn't happen. Less than 80 seconds after they've made that 2-goal lead, Jacob Soper assisted Carl Bradburn to make it 2-1 on 23:57. It did remain like that to the end of the second, though, and then right at the start of the third period, Jack Goodchild assisted Brandon Miles to make it 2-2, exactly the start that Slough would have wanted to that third period. After Ethan Taylor was called for slashing on 46:22, the Moore boys went to work as Seb and Christian assisted Jack Goodchild to make it 3-2 Slough on 47:56, 25th goal of the season there for Jack Goodchild. And then a later power play after Dan Bradley was boxed for delay of game on 56:52. Christian Moore and Juha Lindgren assisted Seb Moore to make it 4-2, so a complete turnaround for the Jets, having been 2-0 down. So just that one win for the Wildcats this weekend. But I would imagine that they're still quite happy with taking the team that are sitting pretty at the top of the league that close, taking that 2-goal lead. But that does show tremendous character from the Jets. Obviously, we will be chatting with Wayne Box in the coming weeks, so we will get a little bit more of an insight behind that character that they've had to build across this year. But with a good performance on Saturday, taking all 3 points, and then a good performance tonight and just not quite being enough against the Jets, we'd imagine that the Wildcats are quite happy with their weekend's work.
Yeah, so fantastic weekend, I think, from each and every one of our players. We had a great win against MK. We're struggling very much with a bit of a team illness situation, as you can probably hear from my voice. So the guys really battled through some huge adversity on Saturday to pull off a win against Milton Keynes. So very proud of the boys. And then we come into Sunday against a very well-drilled Slough Jets. They're top of the league for good reason. We knew it was going to be a tough game. We were also missing a line and a bit worth of under-18 players who had to travel away for a clash. So we went in with light bodies and some sick bodies as well. But we had a game plan, we stuck to it, and I cannot be prouder of each and every one of the boys that played tonight. We were a hair's breadth away from pulling off a real big shock upset win versus Slough. So, all credit to Slough. They stuck with their system. They punished us in the end for a couple of small mistakes, but I can't say that I'm not incredibly proud of the boys. So great weekend all round for the Wildcats 2 team. We just look forward to getting back to it again in 2 weeks' time.
God, before we move on to the next game of Sunday, the most shocking stat really from that Swindon against Slough game is the shot count. 64 to Slough, 5 to Swindon. So, I mean, in goal there for Slough was Nate Gregory, giving up 2 goals on 5 shots. I don't think he'd be overly happy about. But the man of the match, undoubtedly, for Slough on his 18th birthday as well, was Ben Clark-Leach, giving up 4 goals on 64 shots. So that's probably the maddest stat of the weekend. So we had to get that in there before we leave that game behind. Thank you so much to Shannon Taylor for his thoughts. Obviously, as I said, fortunately not available on Sunday, so it wasn't behind the bench. So thank you so much to Shannon Taylor. We move on to the Vindico Arena in Cardiff Bay as the Milton Keynes Thunder make their way across the Severn Bridge, and they found the Fire in quite good form. But there was an awful lot of penalties in this game. No power play goals. There's a shorty a little later on, but it's seeming between these two that discipline is quite a problem. I think it's a rivalry that's really sparked something in the division this year. I know that neither coach are particularly enamoured with each other's styles and how the teams play. They just kind of seem to rub each other up the wrong way all the time, which is incredibly entertaining for everybody else. But Cardiff took the lead in the first period when Scanlon, the goalie, and James Matthews, they both assisted Will Thilbert to make it 1-0 on 14-17. Lewis Stevens, he got the second goal. Lewis James assisted him on 21:56 right at the start of the second period, and then quickly doubled as Reagan assisted Ian Davis to make it 22-36. And then they completed a pretty good 7 minutes at the start of that period when Moody assisted James Matthews to make it 4-0 with a short-handed goal after Bailey Hine-Petcher had been sacked for tripping. There was, a lot of stuff going on towards the end of the second period. There was fighting, roughing, sticking, Coney, Barrow, Jakob, James, Stevens, Quinn, all ending up, and Sam Purcell all ending up in the in the penalty box. Something I'm sure that Dops will have an absolute field day with breaking that apart. But as I said, I think this is a game that's going to become a real rivalry in this division. So let's hear what Ellis Shepherd had to say about his side's 5-0 win.
We had the 2 games this weekend. The first game away in Solent on the Saturday, and then the MK game on the Sunday, our final game against both teams this season. The Solent game was very much... they were gunning for revenge from the week before. I liked our first period. I thought our first period we competed well. We went down 1-0, ended the first, and 2 minutes before we hit the post, so it could have been a very much a different story going into that period break. They get a quick one off the face-off through traffic. They get a few deflection goals as well. They just know how to play that rink really well. I don't think we were where we were the week before in terms of level compete and desire to match Solent, but it's difficult to play Solent in their rink. I think every team will acknowledge that as well, that it's just such a unique rink with bounces and less space, and credit to Solent, they use it to their advantage as well. So a bit of a frustrating Saturday night, but we had to regroup and go into the MK game on Sunday. Credit to MK, I thought they started the game really well. They had some really good opportunities in the first 7 or so minutes, and then we started to take a little bit more control. Ended the period 1-0 to us, and second period we scored 3 unanswered goals, and it was pretty much cruising from there. So really happy with the boys' performance there. Really happy with the team camaraderie and how our young guys stuck up for themselves as well and out on the ice that game. So really happy. We've got some really big games coming up now in our playoff push, so just keeping one game at a time and ensuring that we're not picking up any more suspensions or injuries.
And after his side had another weekend of games where they felt they might be able to take some points, Will Fry gave his thoughts to the podcast.
2-game weekend for us this week. We had a home game on Saturday night. We welcomed Swindon Wildcats and NHL 1 to the Thunderdome, Milton Keynes, and really good performance. I know they were missing a couple of guys with a virus, but we had a few guys out as well, and it was a really good game. I think probably one of the best performances that I've seen from us this season at both ends of the ice. We look really good going forward. I really like the way that we're moving the puck around, and we took a lead, and I think the thing that was the most different and good from our perspective was that whenever Swindon scored, we got back up the other end and dusted ourselves off and scored again almost immediately, until the point where the fourth one went in and we just couldn't quite get ourselves back from that point. And fair play to Swindon, they switched to playing defensively really well and kept us at the other end of the ice and used their cycle to keep us from having the puck and really being able to threaten too much in the third. But yeah, really, really good performance from us. Empty net goal at the end, so 4-3 game really, but definitely something we'll take a lot from, and certainly feels like it's another addition to the good performances that we put in against Romford and Invicta a couple of weeks ago. And then into Sunday, taking the trip up to Cardiff to play the Fire, and similar to the Oxford game last week really, it seems that we can put in good performances and be competitive and look really good against the teams above us in the league, but maybe the teams that are closer to us and play a slightly different style, we seem to struggle a little bit. And first period, I think we looked really good. We were really controlling the possession, controlling the flow of the game, and Cardiff sort of were only really getting opportunities on the breakaway or the counter, but even then we seemed to be mitigating them fairly well, and they got a goal towards the end of the first period that was a little bit out of nothing, and Charles has made a good defensive play, and Hags has got back to try and make the play on the second guide. It was just a little bit too late, and it was one of them that's just sort of found its way in. And then end of the first period, we felt pretty good. We thought we'd controlled the first period really well, and we were carrying over the good things and good habits that we'd done the night before against Swindon. And unfortunately, we came out in the second period and we just lost control of it, really. Lost control of ourselves in terms of how we were playing, and fell away from the structures that we were adhering to in the first period that were bringing success, and we let Cardiff walk around us in the offensive zone too much, and they punished us for it. So it was frustrating, and then some shenanigans towards the end of the second, and fair play to our guys. I thought they stood up for themselves really well, but ultimately it was just a frustrating night, and we couldn't recover from it. And Cardiff's goalie, I thought, had a really, really good game, so full credit to him. And they've got some talented players on that team that if you give them opportunities, they'll take them and they'll punish you for them, and that's what happened to us last night. We just didn't really get going again after the first 10 minutes of the second period and couldn't find our rhythm. So frustrating, but a good weekend, really. I think the Swindon game at home was really important for us, and it was a really good performance, and we've had some really good battles with them all season long, and they're obviously picking up some really, really big results against some of the bigger teams as well. So we've just got to take solace in that, and for us and our group, it's just about getting to a point now where we've proven to ourselves that we know how to be competitive, and we've got the toolbox to be able to do so, but we've just got to keep developing and growing and learn how to win games, and learn how to be a bit more nitty-gritty and do the undesirable things that no one really wants to do. They just want to play with the puck and be progressive and offensive, but we've got to learn when to put the hard yards in and ease off and be patient and control the game a bit better. But that will come with time. With such a young group, they're always learning. So we've got a couple of weeks off now, so we can kind of have a rest and get the team back together and do some work and training. And then we've got a game against Solent in a few weeks' time at home, and then we've got all run into the end of the season. So frustrating night in Cardiff, but really, really enjoyable night in Milton Keynes on Saturday for us. Just disappointed that we couldn't go all the way and get 3 points in that one.
The final game of Sunday saw the Romford Buccaneers make the trip to the High Road and find the Streatham Redhawks again in sparkling form. Although this is a game that has actually called up a little bit of, not surprises in results, but Romford always seems to give Streatham a little bit of a scare. Streatham were by far the better team in the first period, but found Sonny Phillips in absolutely sparkling form. Couldn't break through after Canis was sat for tripping on 3:11. However, Romford didn't break through when Pitchley was sat for interference on 9:53. But right at the end of the period, Toombs and Doughty assisted Luke Brittle to make it 1-0 with his 25th goal of the season on 19:09. Whatever Jason Buckman said to his team in the period break obviously worked, as Romford came out and turned the game around with a goal from Nathan Williams assisted by Niels Muscallans on 22:16. Before Jure Hushka assisted Elliot Dervish to get them 2-1 up on the power play. It stayed like that until the third period, and after the first few minutes, you might have been forgiven for thinking that Streatham weren't going to turn it around, but they can seem to turn it on a sixpence, to be perfectly honest. And they did that when they were on the power play themselves on 46:58 after Tyrone Wells had sat for slashing, as Inglesby and Baird assisted Ryan Watt to score 23rd goal of the season for Watty. 46:58 made it 2-2. Couple of minutes later, back on the power play after Shea Walmore sat for interference. Ryan Watt turned the provider with Thomas Beasley. Ziggy, of course, Ziggy and Ryan are a bit of a dynamic duo when it comes to assisting, and they laid on for Danny Inglesby to make it 3-2 on 51:39. Couple of minutes later, after Josh Ely-Newman had sat for hooking, Inglesby got his second with a short-handed goal when Ziggy Beasley provided the assist. So 25 goals for Inglesby as well this season now, making it 4-2 on 53:35 with a short-handed goal. And then with 5 minutes to go, there was a Romford boy that caused the damage, as Beasley and Inglesby assisted JJ Pitchley for his 14th goal of the season to give the Streatham Redhawks a 5-2 win, keeping the pressure up on the top on Slough. They're still that 1 point behind, but the pressure is still there. Those two will play on March the 1st, which is the night that we're doing Hockey Night Live, so we'll keep you up to date on that game if you can't make it. Well, after a really, really good performance, I know that Jason Buckman was still really, really encouraged with how his team played.
Yeah, I thought it was overall good team performance. Certainly matched Streatham for 45-50 minutes. A short-handed goal and a couple of power play goals. Deciding it in the end, but I think it's a performance we can be happy with. We hit the post a couple of times as well. Every game we play in, we seem to be getting closer, which is good.
And absolutely also happy with how his team managed to get themselves back into it. Won't be happy with their second period, but with the rest of it, I'm sure he is. Streatham head coach Ben Painter.
Yeah, single fixture this weekend, home to Romford on the Sunday night. I think, we had a really good start. It was, I think the first 10 minutes of our game was really good. We were moving our feet, we were moving the puck with purpose, making good use of the big ice, and I think we had quite a few chances that normally would have gone in, but you know what, Sonny's a good goalie, he made some really good saves, mixed with maybe some not so clinical finishing. We think we got a bit frustrated. Like I say, we had some really good chances, but they just didn't go back in the net. And I think at that point we started to get a little bit frustrated. We got away from our game a little bit towards the end of the first. Managed to score one, which was a nice goal from down low and a nice finish in front from Brits. And then obviously finished the period 1-0. I think with the amount of possession we had and how well we kind of played, I think we kind of thought we were going to have an easy night. Something we've been a little bit susceptible to doing this year, and ultimately the frustrations in the second then got the better of us in terms of not really being able to find the back of the net, and we kind of got dragged into a bit of an end-to-end game with a young Romford team that are fast and well drilled, and they got some good little players in that team that are going to be really good players in a few years' time. So we knew that they would be able to punish us, and we spoke about that in the room before the game, that every team in this league has the ability to punish you if you aren't playing the right way. And ultimately we got dragged into a bit of an end-to-end frantic second period where we maybe took too many penalties that saw us finish the second period 2-1 down, which was frustrating. I think you can see the frustration in the group, and I think that wasn't the best for us really. But then we reevaluated in the third, and we spoke about what we need to be doing and that sort of thing, and adjusted what we were trying to do, and we swapped the lines slightly, and it seemed to click. We scored 2 really nice power play goals. Power play come up big. I think we actually the power play came up big and ultimately won us the game in the end. Was really good to see. And then a couple of outstanding sort of individual performances from people like Danny Inglesby who really did lead from the front. So ultimately a very good third period, 4 unanswered goals and win the game 5-2. I'm pleased that we managed to turn it around and we all sort of got on board and pulled on the same rope, and really pleased with how we finished the game. And if we can play like we did in the third for a full 60, we're a really good team. It's just getting to that stage where we get a full 60 under our belt. But obviously another win on the board, and again same thing. We just game by game.
Well, another sort of quite busy weekend, a lot going on. As I said, some pretty random stuff. Obviously, that stat from the Swindon-Slough game, absolutely astonishing. 64 shots to 5. That's absolutely incredible. And to be 2-0 down as well in that game when you only gave up 5 shots, absolute bonkers. I know that I think Sonny Phillips on the Sunday, actually, he only gave up 5 goals on 50. So certainly a weekend for the netminders, particularly Ben Clark-Leach there for Swindon. Let's have a little look at the stars of the week then. So there was a few players that really, really stood out this week. There was a lot of players sort of getting points at both ends, really, with the assists and with goals as well. But we're going to go with these 3. So the third star of the week, helping his side to a fantastic 10-1 victory on Saturday, leading into the cup final. Alex Murray takes it with 2 goals and 2 assists. Second star of the week is Danny Inglesby with exactly the same stats, but I tell you, that boy has been cooking the last couple of weeks, and I think if he keeps this form on to the end of the season, it really is going to see Streatham right up there fighting at the top with the Slough Jets, and then as we move into the power play, makes them incredibly dangerous. So Danny Inglesby takes the second one with 2 goals and 2 assists. But taking the star of the week this week, obviously, as we said, and as Carl said, Invicta have had a little bit of an up-and-down month, not been able to get a run going together by not having that many games, but a few terrific performances in recent from their captain, and he takes it this week with 4 goals and 2 assists. The star of the week, Aaron Connolly. So let's have a look at the league table then. We'll look at it from top to bottom. There has been another qualification for the playoffs, so we'll talk about that when we get down to it. But after their wins this weekend, Slough Jets, with that 6-point weekend, they're still top of the table. They've now played 30, so they've only got 6 games left. They've won 25, 2 overtime wins, 1 overtime loss and 2 defeats. Scored 180 goals, and they've got 80 points. Their max they can now get is 98. In second place, 1 game in hand, the Streatham Redhawks. They've played 29, won 24, 2 overtime wins, no overtime losses and 3 defeats. They are just 1 goal away from 200 in this league this season, which is incredible. 76 points, so 4 points behind with 1 game in hand. They need a slip up. They do need a slip up. But then when them two face each other on March the 1st, what a humdinger that is going to be. Pretty much locked into third now is the Chelmsford Chieftains. They've played 29, 120, 1 overtime win, 1 overtime loss and 5 defeats, 65 points. So they find themselves 11 points back from second, but they do find themselves sort of 8 points clear of fourth. So despite, there might not be a few ups and downs, but I can't actually see that top 4 changing as it is. In that fourth spot, it is the Solent Devils. They've played 30, 118, 1 overtime win, 1 overtime loss and 10 defeats, 57 points. Those two, of course, will go head-to-head in the Cup final this weekend. In fifth, the Invicta Dynamos. They've played 30, they've won 14, 2 overtime wins, 2 overtime losses and 12 defeats. They're on 48 points. Similar, actually, set up between fifth and sixth as it is between 1 and 2. Because Romford have only played 29, so they've got 1 game in hand on Invicta, but they are 4 points back. So to make fifth, they are going to need Invicta to slip up. Those two do face each other relatively soon. I know in March, Romford actually managed to play everybody in March. But if they stay where they are, I think they could play the Chelmsford Chieftains 4 times in March, which is astonishing. So in sixth place, then, it is Romford. They've played 29, won 13, 2 overtime wins, 1 overtime loss, 13 defeats. Scored 120, which is really, really good, I think, for the Romford Buccaneers so far this season. 44 points. And, as I mentioned earlier, now qualified for the playoffs. Congratulations to the Swindon Wildcats too. Their first season back at this level. They've qualified for the playoffs. Played 32, 111, 2 overtime wins, 2 overtime losses and 17 defeats. They have 39 points. They have qualified for the playoffs. I would imagine that 7th is probably where they will stay, having played 3 games more than Romford. Currently now in 8th after that win at home on Sunday, it's the Cardiff Fire. They've played 29, won 6. No overtime wins, 2 overtime losses and 21 defeats. They've got 20 points. Their goal difference is quite poor though, 177 conceded on 69 scored. Something I'm sure that Ellis will look to tighten up towards the end of this season and of course moving into next. In 9th place then, the Oxford City Stars. They've played 31, so 2 games more than Cardiff Fire. They've won 5, 1 overtime win, 1 overtime loss and 24 defeats. They have 18 points. Really are going to need some slip-ups from Cardiff, I think, if they're going to take that 8th place slot. And in 10th, now, of course, unable to qualify for the playoffs, it is the Milton Keynes Thunder. Played 31, won 1, 30 defeats. Scored 50, 248 conceded, just those 3 points. Yeah, unfortunately, now as them stats line up, it was a target, I think, for MK at the start of the year to finish between 8th and 6th. Unfortunately, the highest they can now finish is 9th, and that is going to require a real slip, I think, from Oxford. And it will go down on the head-to-head, so they'd have to win their remaining games against Oxford as well. But that is how the league table is looking. It certainly is hotting up as we move into the last few weeks of the season. But league stuff aside for the weekend coming, there are a couple of league fixtures. There is a rearranged fixture between the Streatham Redhawks and the Cardiff Fire, 5:30pm on the High Road. You may remember that game was called off when we had one of the storms coming in. And I think Cardiff couldn't actually get out of Wales because all the bridges were closed. So that has been rearranged. Cardiff find themselves having a 2-game weekend as they are hosting the Oxford City Stars as well on the Sunday at 6:45. But aside from those 2 league games, it is Cup final weekend. We will be putting together a massive Cup final episode for you. We won't be doing any sort of preview from like we did last year and the year before where we sort of speak to the coaches before. We'll all be doing it on the night, and then next week there'll be a proper full-on episode for the Cup final. We'll get pre-match thoughts from Cliff and from Alex Murray, and then post-match thoughts as well after the whole weekend has gone down. I'll be at both games. I love going down to Solent. I can't wait to go and see the guys down there. It's always a very welcoming rink. We could well be doing something really, really special as well that night. I'll just make sure that I let you know before, just to double check that we can do it. So that's going to be Cup final weekend. Solent Devils, Chelmsford Chieftains, Saturday 26th of Feb, 5 p.m. face-off at the Gosport Ice Arena. There may well be a single amount of tickets left for that home leg, so jump onto the Solent Devils website if you still want to go and see if there is tickets available. I think there is literally single figures available. The second leg at Chelmsford, 6 p.m. on Sunday the 23rd, that is currently, I think, sold out. There is a few tickets remaining on the door. It's a bit of a risk if we're going to come all the way out from Solent, but I would just contact the club, actually, I think, if you... because I think it says online sold out, but contact the club, I think, if you want to make it to that game. But that game is going to be absolutely rammed at the Riverside. Going to be fantastic to see the Cup final finishing there. You know what? I think it's actually a little bit tighter than people may think. Obviously, Chelmsford went down to Solent last week, won quite handsomely. Solent did beat Chelmsford at the start of the season at home. You can't really plan anything for that rink. If it goes for you, it goes for you. I've seen Chelmsford go down there and win 9-0 after being outshot, but I've seen them go down there, play really well, and lose 8-4. So you're never going to go. You're never going to predict what's going to happen in that rink, I don't think. But if it's within, even if Devils take the win, I think if it's 2 goals or less, I still think that Chelmsford will be too strong at home on the Sunday. So hopefully, I say from my point of view as a Chelmsford fan, I'm looking forward to the final from both legs. But I think Chelmsford just might be too strong for it. But it's going to be a fantastic Cup final either way. It's a replay of last year's playoff final, which was far more one-sided than anyone would have liked, really. Solent found themselves behind within the first 60 seconds and never really got their heads back up after it. So I know that Alex Murray will probably use that as a little bit of fuel for their fire when they get ready to play the Cup final this weekend. And as I said, next week's episode, we'll have a full thing of it. We'll have the pre-game, the post-game, anything I can get from the evening there as well. From down in Solent on Saturday and then Chelmsford on Sunday, and we'll make a massive Cup final episode about it next week. Well, thank you so much for listening to this week's Roundup episode. Thank you to all the coaches for sending in their coaches' thoughts. Do let me know if you like the new format where we talk about the game sort of all in a whole. If you're joining us on YouTube, you'll of course see the graphic on there as well, that we're going to have the scores and the scorers all on there when we know what they are. Those guys that do the social medias for the clubs, you're all doing such a fantastic job. But if you do want to get those game night updates out, it really does help everybody, especially me, when we try and get this all together so quickly. So yeah, we just want to know, same as when I do Hockey Night Live, really, because that's when I really, really do need it. So we want to know what's the score now, who scored, who assisted, what's the minute, type of goal. Get it out there nice and quick, nice and short, nice and sharp. And then everybody is in the know. Again, a massive thanks to Joe Scutts, getting those box scores up nice and early so we can get as many details as we can out there for you. And later this week, should have a couple of episodes coming out for you. I do keep promising the Damon Porter episode. It is coming. I promise you it is coming. And, of course, later this week, I'll be catching up with former Oxford City Stars player, now playing at the Danbury Hat-Tricks in the Federal Prospects League in America, Dylan Hullaby. Really, really interested to speak to Dylan. We've had his dad on, of course, before Dylan started playing out here in the UK. But now I'm really excited to speak to Dylan and chat about everything that's going on in Danbury and Connecticut, as well as how he felt he got on playing here in the UK. Well, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to check out all of the socials. Check out our partners as well at Hockey Art Co, Manscaped and the Sports Social Podcast Network. Keep all your eyes on the social media for when you want new episodes of the ZPG Ice Maidens as well, giving you everything from the WNIHL. And, of course, you can check out our merch store where you can find hoodies and hats and beanies and T-shirts and all sorts of stuff, all Zero Pucks Given branded. You can find it all in the link tree on our social media pages. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.